Welcome everyone. Today we'll be looking at all of the 5-star weapons that's currently in the game and also what are the best characters for those weapons. We'll also go into details on theory crafting with the characters and the special bonus of each of the weapons. To start things off, there are two major ways of acquiring weapons in this game. This can be from the Venti banner with a lower weapon chance but a higher character chance, or in a standard banner with higher weapon chance over the character chance. At the same time, we can acquire weapon guaranteed on the weapon banner. Currently, there are 10 5-star weapons in total in the game, being 2 of the weapons for each of the categories, so 2 bows, 2 catalysts, etc. Starting with the sword, the promoted banner has the Aquila sword, which is one of the most powerful one-handed weapon in the game. So not only do you increase attack damage, you also have a chance of triggering HP regen and also AoE damage around your character. Although this can only be done every 15 seconds, but the sword itself is very powerful. On top of that, the sword also has secondary increase in physical damage bonus and also one of the highest base attack at 48, and this goes up further as you level up the weapon. Looking at our 7 candidates for the one-hand sword, likely I'll be using the sword of Chi-Chi, Keqing, Jing, or maybe our Traveler with Wind or Geo. It is more beneficial if we use the sword as a main damage dealer over the support cast like Jing and the Traveler. This is when we come into the second sword with Skyward Blade. Skyward Blade has the secondary ability to increase energy recharge. It increases the healing received and also critical rate, and also with 80% chance of generating an elemental particle, this sword is perfect for a one-hand support user. So when do I say one-hand support user? I mean someone like Jing, like the Traveler with the air elemental. So you're swapping into the character, you're casting a spell, then you're likely to swap to the next character and have that character does normal attack and also spell casting. So a majority of the time, it is nice to just have a 5-star weapon, but if you differentiate those two weapons, the support casting units should be acquiring the energy boost and the elemental particle weapon, while our damage dealer like Chi-Chi and Keqing can use the focus of doing damage AoE and also a bit of healing over time. Next up, we have the Polearms. As you guys know, there is only one Polearm user in the game currently with Xiaoling. She is going to be available to everyone after clearing Spiral Abyss on floor level 3. After that, Xiao is not going to come anytime soon, likely a month after global launch or even further. So ideally, all of the Polearms as showed over here will be available to only one character. Looking at both of the Polearm, the promoted banner will have the Karu's Iris Rift, which increases attack speed and also increases damage against enemies affected by any element. And knowing how easy Xiaoling can debuff enemies with her E spell and set the enemies on fire, so it's very useful to have this item for the attack speed and also for the increase of elemental damage. On the other hand, this weapon increases base attack, but compared to the Primordial Gem Wind Spear, which increases critical rate, I think I'll prefer critical rate in the late game, because the higher critical rate, the more likely you critical hit, and there's a lot of things that trigger with critical damage as well. So, the Primordial Gem also have a higher attack. As you level up the weapon, those attack is going to make a small difference and even larger difference as you level up further. So this one has 48 attack, and if we remember earlier, the Aquila also have 48 damage over here. This weapon has an unhit effect to increase attack by 3.2 up to 6% for 6 seconds, and the maximum 7 stacks. At level 1 of this weapon, we're looking at something close to 22% increased attack. And upon achieving all 7 stacks, which is very likely with how fast Xiaoling attacks, we'll be also receiving a skill damage boost by 12%. So likely the Primordial Gem is going to be a very powerful late game item, and with the critical rate, you're likely going to be critical hitting a lot with high attack damage. If I were to choose, I think I'll go for the Primordial Jade, but at the same time, it's also great to have the attack speed increase. So personally, I'll be happy with any of those, of course, but if I really go into deeper in the late game, I still go for the critical rate and also the stacks over here. Next up, we have the Catalyst. There are 2 Catalysts which are 5 stars. Both of the Catalysts does not have the highest base attack damage at 44 and 45. The Skyward Alas has the base attack as secondary, and also the Lost Prayer has the critical rate as secondary. In comparison, I think I'll go for the critical rate, but let's go deeper into the bonus. So for the Lost Prayer, you gain a movement speed and also 6% up to 14% elemental damage boost every 4 seconds. With a stack of 4 times, we're looking at 24% elemental boost. and when the character changes or dies, this bonus is lost. I really like the movement speed, which keeps the mages mobile, and also having critical rate as substat, it means you can hit much harder with your mage. Coming back to the Skyward Atlas, the bonus spell is actually very interesting. What we're looking at is the increase of elemental damage by 12%, which is nice for the mage, and also when you normal attack as the mage, you have a 50% chance of summoning a Favor of the Cloud. This is going to seek nearby enemies and also attack for 15 seconds. The damage it deals is 160% attack damage. I am not sure how fast this unit will attack, but although this can only occur every 30 seconds, that means every 15 seconds you gain a damage boost of increased damage by 160% single target damage. So in terms of damage, if the higher your base attack is, the higher the summoned unit will be with attack. It is likely the Skyward Atlas will have a greater single target damage, while the Lost Prayer allows us to be more mobile with the movement speed. Coming to our 6 Catalyst user, I think all of our units can use both of the items, but for someone like Barbara, who is going to be a support caster, it is preferable for her to have the increase of movement speed, because most of her gears will be built towards increased HP for her healing percentage, so she wouldn't be doing much of the damage over time anyways. But for Mona, Kill, and Lisa, I do believe the Skyward Atlas with a higher single target damage is better for them. This, of course, is under the assumption we have not been building for critical rate. If we've been building for critical rate with artifacts and critical hit damage, then the higher critical rate may be the way to go. Coming over to the 5-star bows, we can see that the Skyward Harp has a secondary for critical rate and also increased critical hit damage, and also hitting our enemies have a chance of doing AoE damage, dealing 100% damage AoE in a small radius. So this to me is a very powerful combination. Increased critical rate, critical damage, and also something the bow user is lacking is to do area damage. You can say yes, Amber and Fizzle can do a little more area damage and Venti does damage with his casting, but for the bow user, likely you'll be shooting a lot of time with your normal attack, and this is single target damage. Having the chance to do area damage means you can kite enemies around and pull a bunch of enemies behind you and kill them together at once. In comparison, the Amos bow has the base attack for the secondary and also increased normal attack and aim shot by 12 up to 20%. Also increased damage from arrows shoot further away by 8% for every 0.1 second that the arrow is in midair. This might look great on paper, but what actually happens is the arrows travel a lot faster than what we expect. You likely will be benefiting from the first shot of an aim shot away from an enemy that's very far away, but most of the time you wouldn't be getting a lot over 0.3 of a second for the arrow traveling time. And it's very hard to get the 40% bonus damage when you stack up to 0.5 seconds, because there's a projectile and the trajectory of the arrow is hard to determine the longer the distance it is. And also enemies moves around, so the arrow doesn't auto-seek, and if you go too far, you're going to miss your arrow. If you go too close, you probably only get 8 or 16% of the bonus damage. So in comparison, I'll definitely go with the Skyward Harp for most of the archers. And of course, if I do get a 5-star, I'll be very happy because the base attack is still very much higher. Next up, we have the Claymore users. There are 5 Claymore users in the game. And for me, I'll be focusing on the Luke, Noel, and Razor as I'm more familiar with the skill kit and the combination of synergies. When we compare the 2 5-star Claymores, we can see that one increased base attack, the other one increased energy recharge. So directly you can see one of these weapon wants you to be casting multiple times as you gain more energy. The other weapon is about just having higher attack and hit harder for you. And funny enough, the Wolf's Grade actually have 2 effects. Not only does it increase attack percentage, and also when the enemy has lower HP than 30%, you'll be increasing the attack damage of the entire party for 40% for 12 seconds. Although this only happens every 30 seconds, this is still a very powerful buff. So for example, I'm running around to a camp with a lot of small minions and a few elites. I weaken the small minions to below 30%. I switch into my Claymore user. I one-shot the small minion, we all gain the 40% damage, then I switch back to my archer or maybe my main mage, then I kill the rest of the enemies with the 40% damage buff. So you can see the Wolf's Gravestone to be very flexible. Either your Claymore user is a support user, or if he's a carry, he can use this effectively. so I really like this item. And having higher base attack also translates into higher damage with a multiplier over here. In comparison, the Skyward Pride has energy recharge, and this allows the Claymore user to cast he or her ultimate more frequently. This also increases damage by 8%, and after using an Elemental Burst, normal attack or charge attack will create a Vacuum Blade. The Vacuum Blade will base on the physical damage of the character, and along its path you will deal damage AoE. And this lasts for 20 seconds or 8 Vacuum Blades. So I haven't seen exactly how the Vacuum Blade works, but I do believe this is a nice niche of item as well, because the ability to create Vacuum Blade and having the ability for 20 seconds or 8 blade can be very powerful. This kind of reminds me when I was playing a different game called Wilson, and we had a lot of spinning blades. The more spinning blades there are, the more damage we deal. And although it only says 80 and up to 160%, if we're actually having 8 of those blades for 8 times 80%, that's a lot of damage. So if you guys are lucky enough to find a Claymore with the Skyward Pride, let me know how it goes. I'm very curious on its mechanics and how much damage potential it has. To summarize this video, if you're looking for a weapon upgrade, then definitely consider the weapon banner for a slightly higher rate of 0.7% for the 5 stars, and a higher rate for the 4 stars at 6%. While looking at the weapons, it is important to know that we can still use the 3 stars or 4 stars in the early game, and the well upgraded 4-star weapon can be very close to the 5-star weapons as well. So if you want to see the 4 stars and 3-star showcase, definitely see our previous guide on the 4-star and 3-star weapons. Thank you so much for watching this weapons guide video, guys. If you like my videos and want to see more videos for Genshin Impact, definitely hit the subscribe button and click the little bell for future videos to come. And let us know in the comments below, what are your favorite weapons, what are you looking for, and what are the weapon synergies you prefer with the 5-star weapons. Thank you so much for watching again, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.